The NFC of the NFL is already came out with their win prediction totals going into next season as far as the win totals of how we think each of our teams are going to be in the NFC. And not only that, too, Vegas also wants you to take the pick of whether or not to bet on the over or the under of the total of wins that each team in the NFC gets for next year. So, with all that being said, where do you guys feel like your respective team, if you have a favorite team that is in the NFC, where do you think they're going to end up? How do you think their season is going to end up being going into next year? I know it's very early to tell because we're still in the offseason and we haven't even gotten into the draft yet. So we don't really know really where each of our teams are going to end up being going into next year. But it's also very interesting, but it's also important too to kind of really come to the reality of how many wins each of our team is going to be. Is it going to be worth betting on the over, or is it going to be worth betting on the under as the safe sign to face reality as far as where our team goes? Let me know in the comments down below. This is your boy JP Football Fanatics telling you to please drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below for more content, new content that you want me to cover. If there's anything that you would like me to cover as far as anything NFL related, please let me know about it in the comments down below because that's really going to help me as far as where, right now where I'm standing as a podcaster, and not only where I'm standing as a podcaster, but I also want to be aware of as far as, you know, trying to create content for you guys, being able to get my stuff out there to each and every one of you. So that way, too, when it comes down to it, and you want to listen to someone else besides like a Colin Coward or Stephen A. Smith or Mike Florio or Max Kellerman, you name it, all those guys there, they're all media people. I'm the guy that wants to give you my best opinion and the most honest opinion, brutal opinion as best as possible. So if you want me to cover any different content from the NFL or even talk a little bit more about college football and the NFL draft, you name it, let me know in the comments down below. And also, too, if you could please, when you look at this video, you also can see that little subscribe button down below. Please hit the subscribe button that's down below because that's really going to help me as far as, more people that are tuning into my stuff each and every week. And not only each and every week, but also to help the channel grow. So that way, when you're looking for new podcasters, I'm the guy to go to. So, like, comment, subscribe. There you go. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I know it's early in the morning. It's 11 o'clock now, so it's almost noontime. So I know ideally, usually I do not actually do live streams during the week, but I'm actually off of spring break for this week because as some of you may already know, I work in a school. So I'm off for the next few days during the Easter holiday and spring break. So I have some time to be able to get some of my live streams down where I'm behind on and everything. So that way I can keep the content rolling as best as I can. So that's why I'm starting earlier today at 11 o'clock. So thank you again for tuning in. If you have not done so already, please be sure to tell other people that we are live right now on JP Football Fanatics, giving you all the win predictions as far as the NFC side goes. Remember, this is the NFC side that I'm covering here. The AFC side is going to be coming out tomorrow sometime in the morning, late morning, early afternoon time frame, somewhere around there. That's the AFC that's going to be happening tomorrow. Today we are focusing on the NFC. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with the first team. And just so you all know, I'm not doing them by division actually, for either NFC or AFC. I'm going to be doing them in alphabetical order just because it's just easier to kind of follow along to, and you guys kind of get the ideas, and we'll be able to kind of talk about like where each team is and everything. It's just easier that it's all in alphabetical order that way. All right, so the first team we're going to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, the over-under for them right now is at 5.5 wins. So Vegas thinks that the Cardinals are going to win either over or under 5.5 games. So what do I think about this one right here? Well, a lot of people understand that the Cardinals are pretty much in a rebuilding mode right now. Last year was a disastrous year for them. Cliff Kingsbury ended up getting fired, so they have a new head coach, new offensive play caller. They have a whole. They're pretty much building the team from scratch again. DeAndre Hopkins is likely to get traded on somewhere in the season. Kyler Murray, he was injured towards the end of last season and wasn't really able to play the rest of the season, which really hurt the Cardinals quite a bit. And as far as what we're looking like right now, Kyler Murray wants to get out of Arizona, and with dealing with his injury and trying to recover from his injury from last season, it seems like that Kyler Murray might be out for at least the majority of the season, if not most of the season. So we may not really get to see much of him this year. And what that really means is if we don't see a Kyler Murray, we might be able to get to see like a Colt McCoy, who filled in nicely for Kyler Murray last year, before Colt McCoy ended up getting hurt too. So I'm going to do the safe bet, and I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL next year. I think they're at least going to, just like with this year when they're in the top 3 pick, I think they're going to be somewhere similar around there next year. They may even muster maybe 1-2 wins if they're lucky, but that's pretty much it. I'm going to take the under on this one. I think 5 games is very generous for them to win. They definitely aren't going to win over 5 games for sure, or 5.5 at least, but I think 2, 3 maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I have to see where the schedule is when it comes out next month and kind of really get a better idea as far as like where that goes and everything. But the Cardinals right now are in a rebuild mode that is going to be a while until they get themselves back on track. So I'm taking the under for the Cardinals. I think they're going to be at least a top 2 pick, 3 pick for next year. So I'm taking the under for the 5.5. Defensively, they lost a lot of players too. J.J. Watt retired. A.J. Green from the offensive side of the ball has retired as well too. So pretty much what they're really left with is Marquise Brown, and they definitely need a lot more work than just that. James Conner was kind of flashy a little bit last year, but wasn't really anywhere spectacular. So this team is definitely due for a rebuild, and I think that starts next year. So better luck next year, Cardinals fans. Next, we got the Atlanta Falcons. The over-under for this one is 7.5 wins for them going into next season. The Falcons kind of shocked everybody last year as far as getting 7 wins under Marcus Mariota. And I think they have some talent in a way. Like, they run the ball nicely, which is something that I think is something that Arthur Smith is going to want to kind of focus more on in terms of running the ball more and not really focus so much on the passing. But from the way that it's looking right now, they just picked up Taylor Heineke last month as their backup, which they keep saying is a backup. So Desmond Ridder is very likely going to be the starter going into next season. And the way that I kind of view that, when we watched Ridder play last year, it wasn't very pretty. It wasn't exactly my favorite. Like, I don't believe it was personally the best quarterback in this league. I'm not a huge Desmond Ridder believer. Even with the games that I believe he won, maybe like 1 game, maybe during that time span. But I still don't think he's the guy, the answer. I think they need a lot more help than that. And I think they also do need some more help too. I think they've been piecing together some nice details. They picked up defensive players like Calais Campbell from the Ravens, which is a very nice addition for them. They picked up a couple nice players along the way. So I think they're coming along nicely. But I think the biggest question about them is where their quarterback is standing at this time right now. And I think their quarterback really is not the true answer for them. Taylor Heineke might be able to put them back on the map a little bit. Maybe we'll spark something if Desmond Ridder does not play well. But I don't see this team really going anywhere spectacular. But this is the NFC South we're talking about, so they can probably win. They could probably split with pretty much everybody in their division. Tampa Bay is going to be down going into next year. The Saints are average. We'll talk about that when we get there. The Panthers might be one of their toughest games that they will have to try to beat them, which we'll talk about them next. But I think the Falcons, if I'm going to do the safe thing, I'm going to take the under for the Falcons. I think they still have a lot more things to really look in. And this could be Arthur Smith's last season, because if Arthur Smith does not fulfill his duties as far as getting them wins or leading them into at least playoff contentions, he might be out going into next season. And I think they still have some more pieces and they still have some more ways to go before we can safely say that they're a team they're a force to be reckoned with. So I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna say the under. I would say bet on the under for this one for under 7.5 games because I think they can win at least 3 games in their division. But as far as like the rest of their schedule, where it's gonna be like, it's gonna be tough to really decide on where they go. So I think they still have a lot more, and I think Desmond Ritter is too immature yet. He's too raw. We need to really see what he can really do going into next year. Next, we got the Carolina Panthers. So very similar to the Falcons, their over and under is 7.5. Andy Dalton was just picked up by Carolina, which was a nice signing for them. They picked up some nice pieces like an Adam Thielen. They lost DJ Moore, so that really does hurt them a lot. But they did pick up a nice solid receiver in Adam Thielen. They also picked up Miles Sanders at running back. They have a pretty nice offensive line that they really rebuilt from scratch pretty much since last year. Defense is pretty underrated too. I think they have some nice defensive players there too, like J.C. Horn is one of them too. And then you take a look at the defensive line, which is pretty underrated too. So I think this is a team that's going to be over 7.5 wins. So I'm going to say that if I am betting on this right now, until like obviously until preseason starts and the regular season starts, I would say it would probably be best to even pick the over, bet on the over for this, because I think the Panthers in their division, they should be able to beat the Bucks. They should be able to beat the Falcons at least once. And I think really their toughest one is the Saints, and I think they could beat the Saints at least once too. Like this Panthers team, what they have right now, what they've lost and what they've gained over during this time, like they now have the number 1 overall pick, so they can go a quarterback. They can go a quarterback in the as their very first pick in the first round. Like they can get like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, which I think they're going to be more than likely. Sources are saying CJ Stroud is going to be taken first, but I think if you're the best, if you want to take a safe bet, I think Carolina's going to take Bryce Young, which I'll do like a mock draft heading into when it gets closer to the draft draft time frame. But the Panthers have some nice talent, and I think if you have Andy Dalton as your veteran, which is nice, he's a good locker room quarterback that's been in the league for a while, so he's been in a whole bunch of different systems. He's a good quarterback to back up on, and the quicker that you can learn from someone like him, I think the more that the quarterback will be ready to go. And I think getting a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud is going to help them prepare and get ready with all these veteran players that are in, and help them get ready. When their number is called, it's time for them to come out, and then they'll be better prepared. So I like what the Panthers are doing. I think they're sneaky. I think they're a pretty underrated team that I think is going to do some good things going into next season. So if in my honest opinion, I'm taking the over. I think they're going to win over 7.5 games. I would say they're going to probably win 8, 9 games, maybe even 10. I think that's the most that they can win is at least 10. So I think it's a safe bet, and I think you could definitely do the over with the Panthers. Next team that we have here is the Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears, which is a little bit surprising to me, but at the same time, not so much, because the Bears over under bet is 7.5 games that they're going to win this year is what Vegas is saying. In my honest opinion, I know the Bears have done a lot of nice things and everything. They picked up, obviously, they traded their number 1 pick for DJ Moore, which was an excellent trade for the Bears. Probably the first best thing they've done in forever. And they've been picking up some defensive players. They picked up, they traded away David Montgomery to Detroit, and they were able to get someone in return of that. So I think what the Bears are doing, they're in the right direction as far as gaining talent. Like, they're definitely helping out Justin Fields in the passing game, which was something that Justin Fields was struggling in his first 2 years because he didn't really have anybody to throw the ball to besides Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney. But now he's got Chase Claypool in there. That's a pretty nice, solid slot receiver in there, too. That's good in the slot and a good route runner. You've also got DJ Moore, too, who's really going to be your true number 1 receiver that you're going to want to depend on. You'll also have, as the wideout, you'll have Darnell Mooney in there as well, too, which is a pretty nice, solid pick there. You also got Cole Kmet too, which is a nice tight end too that can do some big things, which he did some nice things last year. I think the biggest thing that you really need to really focus on if you are the Bears really at this point right now is just to fix up that offensive line. Like you've done everything else that you needed to do. You've gotten Justin Fields the help that he's needed in terms of the passing game and the run game. Now you just need to fix up on that offensive line. And if you can do that, and give Justin Fields more time to throw the ball, this could be a pretty sneaky good team. Like I think their coaching staff is right. I think it's a lot better than when Matt Nagy was the head coach for this team. I think they're in the right direction. But saying that they're going to win like 7.5 games is a bit too much, I believe, in my opinion. I think they're probably at least a year or two away from getting somewhere. And it really is a big if Justin Fields can step up in year 3. Now that he has all these weapons, is he going to be the guy moving forward? Is he going to be the guy that you are going to rely on week in and week out to win you games? Is he the one that's going to get you, if you get to the playoffs this season, is he going to be the guy that is going to win you a playoff game and get further in the playoffs? So, a lot of questions, a lot of things to really think about. I'm going with the safe bet, and I'm going to do the under because I think they still need a little bit more time to develop, and they need to decide whether or not Justin Fields is the right guy for them. So, I'm taking the under for this, but don't be surprised but don't be surprised, though, if they begin to go on a huge win streak because I think they can definitely do it with the talent that they do have. But I just want to do the safe bet and bet the under if I was, if I were you guys and if I was a Bears fan, because I still think there's definitely a lot more things that the team has to prove. And Justin Fields is definitely going to be one of the people on this Bears team that's going to really want to prove in year 3. Next, you got the Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys over under is 9.5 points, 9.5 games, excuse me. The Cowboys have done some really nice things. I'm going to be completely honest. I think they've done some really nice things so far in the season. Like they traded away Dalton Schultz, which was a big hurt in the tight end position there. They traded him to Houston. But in return of that, they got Brandon Cooks. So now they fixed up on the receiver end. So now you've got CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and then you got Brandon Cooks there. So that all works out fine. Then you've got Tony Pollard, which is also going to be a nice running game for them. You also have a pretty nice, solid offensive line, too. You picked up Stephon Gilmore at corner. Then you have Trevon Diggs on the other side of the field. Then you've got Micah Parsons, and you've got Dexter Lawrence. Like, there are a lot of key positions in the Cowboys that they've been nailing so far this offseason. Now it's time for Dak Prescott and the rest of the Cowboys organization to finally say that they're ready to win a Super Bowl, or at least willing to say that they are a contender in the NFC. Because the Dallas Cowboys and fans have been saying for a decade, since that last Super Bowl win in the mid-90s, that the Cowboys, this was their year, this is their year, this is their year. This year could be potentially their year to finally have a breakout season. However, it is going to depend on, number one, it's going to depend on coaching. Mike McCarthy, is he going to be able to get this team where they need to be? Is Dak ready to break through the whole Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr comparison? And are they going to be staying healthy for the full season? Because any one of those three things fall down, the Cowboys will miss out. So the over, I am going with the over 9.5 wins. Because I think the Cowboys and the division that they're in, which is the NFC East, when they play the Eagles and they play the Giants and the Commanders, they definitely can compete with all of them. And I think when their schedule does come out, I think they're going to have a nice solid road to get them to a nice solid record that's going to be good enough for them to try to win the division. So I think it's going to be neck and neck between the Cowboys, the Cowboys, Eagles, and the Giants in terms of trying to win the NFC East. And any one of those three could potentially have a breakout year. I think the Dallas Cowboys is one of them. I think they're a team that a lot of people are going to need to look into. I think they're going to be a sneaky good team that can sneak up on you at the right time, and they could get hot at the right time too. So I'm taking the Cowboys over. I think they win over 9.5 games. Next team we have here is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions over under bet right now is 9 wins. I'm going to say it right now. The Detroit Lions are going to be over. I think they're over 9 wins. I think this is a team that is nice. They're nicely put together. They have all the right key pieces that they needed. They just picked up David Montgomery last month, which is a nice addition to their offense, and it's going to work out really well with them, at least. They have one of the best offensive lines in football, in my honest opinion. Jared Goff, a solid quarterback in his own right, that has been doing nice since he's been to Detroit. You've got the nice receivers of Amon St. Brown. You also got a nice addition there to the defensive side. You just picked up C.J. Gardner, which was an awesome pickup for the Detroit Lions. You also have Aiden Hutchinson. And then running backs, you got DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery that's also in there too. You've got a lot of nice pieces. Now it's just time to really think about, like, is this the time? Is this like the team that can really go in there, and can they actually prove to themselves that they are worth what they say that they are? And I think they're going to have a breakout year. I think they can win 10, 11, maybe even 12 games this season. That's no exaggeration. Like, this team is loaded with talent, and it's all sneaky, flying under the radar kind of talent that can compete with like the teams like the Cowboys or the Eagles or any other team that's in there too. Maybe like teams that you don't really that are overlooked. Usually, the Lions are usually a team that's overlooked, and not many people want to give them credit where credit is due. But I think when you have a great offensive play caller, you have great talent on both sides of the ball. Like, you cannot overlook this team. Like, they are right there with a lot of other teams that they can compete with. So this is a team that's flying under the radar. I think betting on the over 9 wins for this team is definitely something to really consider, considering with what they have right now. And not only that too, the Vikings are going to be probably looking for a regress going into next year. The Packers, if they decide to trade up Aaron Rodgers, is definitely going to be on the downfall too. The Bears are kind of, they're going to be right there a little bit, but they're also got a lot of things they got to prove too. Like, the Lions are all set and they're ready to win a division, and I think that can happen next season. So betting on the over for the Detroit Lions is definitely something that I would consider if you are the person that enjoys betting and wanting to make predictions. Next, you got the Green Bay Packers. Their over and under is 7.5 points, 7.5 games. I don't know why I keep saying points. I'm sorry. So there's 7.5 wins is their prediction from Vegas. Just to kind of be on the safe side, if Aaron Rodgers does, whatever reason, something happens and Green Bay does not get the kind of deal that they want from the Jets, I say they can be over 7.5. But if Aaron Rodgers isn't there and it's Jordan Love time, I would say under. Like, I do like Jordan Love, and I want to see Jordan Love finally get his time to be a starter in this league. I want to see how successful he can be under center. I want to see how he can do with the nice young receivers of like Christian Watson, and that sort of game there, and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Like, I want to see how he looks with Green Bay. Like, we've seen him play a couple of games. He's only really had one NFL start, and it wasn't really exactly the prettiest, and that was against Kansas City. That's, obviously when you're a young quarterback and you're playing against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, never an easy time by any means. But I want to see where Jordan Love really stands. I want to see if he can play in this league. I want to see if he can keep up with the big names like like a Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. Like, I want to see where this guy is, and I want to see if he can compete with the big dogs. So I think Aaron Rodgers over. If Jordan Love plays, I would say just slightly under, because I think this team is due for they're due for a rebuild. I think it's time to move off of from Aaron Rodgers and kind of see where he goes elsewhere, because I think from basically since day one, since Green Bay has really gotten him, they've never really been able to really help him, especially like these last 5 years. They've never really gave him the help that he really needed in terms of wide receivers, offensive line, defense. Like they've always seemed to really mess up every single draft season. And it's just time to move off from Aaron Rodgers, quit wasting his time, and knowing face reality that you're not going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon if you don't get the things that he's needed. So if you're not getting him what he needs, there's no point in terms of trying to keep him and waste your time and his. So I'm saying that's what I'm going to say for that one. Next, we got the Los Angeles Rams. They're over under is 7.5. I think they're going to be. This is a team that's kind of tricky because they don't have a first round pick this year. They didn't have one last year. And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they also have I don't think they even have one for next year either. So the Rams are definitely due for a rebuild. I'm gonna say under just to be on the safe side. Like I think Sean McVay is gonna do what he can to provide the best that he can for this team, but really realistically though, I mean, obviously you need more than just a Cooper Cup. Like I love Cooper Cup. I think he's great for this team, and I love Matthew Stafford too, but I think it's just time that, Matthew Stafford, I think it's time for him to retire. I think it's also time to be looking for the next generational quarterback for this team. I think it's also time to be looking for more than just a Cooper Cup. Like, Allen Robinson washed. You're not getting Odell Beckham back. Tyler Higbee, okay, but not anything special. Cam Akers might be able to get back on track next year. Offensive line stinks. Defensive players besides Aaron Donald, not really anything fancy. You lost Jalen Ramsey in a trade to Miami. Like, there's a lot of things about this Rams team. There's a lot that needs to be redone. So they definitely are due for a makeover. I think they're going to fall apart again in year two. So I'm going to do the safe thing, and I'm going to bet the under on this one. There's not a whole lot more I can really say about this team. Next, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. The over-under for them is 8.5 wins. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I mean, I was really high on the Vikings last year, mostly because of offense and because of like how the change of scenery from Mike Zimmer to Kevin O'Connell really changed the culture of the team, which has. But the defense has also regressed too. Like they've picked up, obviously, getting Brian Flores is definitely a big upgrade over what they had previously at DC. So that's going to help them quite a bit. Like there's not a whole lot of talent in Minnesota in terms of defensively. So that's going to keep them back quite a bit. But offensively, they're going to be in pretty much every shootout, every single game. I mean, obviously, you got Justin Jefferson. You lost Adam Thielen, but that's okay. You can try to get another receiver in the draft, maybe. You also still have T.J. Hawkinson. You have two really solid running backs of Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins, obviously, is a gamer. You have a good offensive line, too, that's going to protect you and do well. KJ Osborne could also step up, too, and be a number 2 receiver, but I also kind of want to see where Jalen Reagor is, too, when they got him last year from the Eagles, so I kind of want to see how he does. So offensively, they're fine. I don't have any issues with them offensively. I just want to see if Brian Flores, being the defensive coordinator for this team, is he going to make a big difference? Is this team going to step up defensively? And I think they might in some ways. Like I think they could in terms of like, maybe like stop, which was like they had a lot of problems last year. Like obviously they couldn't stop the run. The corners were very slow last year. They lost Patrick Peterson, which definitely is going to hurt them because that was one of their better defensive players in the league in this team. And with what you have right now, I mean, Brian Flores has a lot that he needs to work with. So if I'm going to be completely honest with you, slightly over. I could see them winning 9 games, but their lowest I could see them winning 7. But I think like 9 to 10 wins next year. I'm going to just say it safe. I think they can win games. Like I think they're better than Green Bay. I think they're better than Chicago, but I don't believe they're definitely going to be due for a regress. There's no question about it. I think there's definitely a lot of things that they're going to do. But you never really know either. I mean, Flores could definitely go in here year one as DC and be able to clean house and do whatever he can for this team. But I'm also being honest too in terms of I think there's also a lot more that Minnesota is going to need defensively in order for them to step up and be at that next level. And you also have Kirk Cousins too, which is obviously he's a regular season game manager, and he's excellent there. And then when you want him to win in the biggest stages, is very very hard for him to do. But he's built around talent though, so there's no reason for that. But I think defensively, you just got to do a lot more. So I'm going to do the safe thing. I'll bet the over for that one, even though I'm not totally confident in that one. That's one of the more trickier ones. Like with the Rams, it's tricky. Another tricky one is the New Orleans Saints at the over-under is 9.5. I'm going to say just slightly under for the Saints. Like, I think I can see the Saints winning at least 9 games. That could be just enough for them to win the NFC South. Obviously, getting Derek Carr was nice for them. I'm glad Derek Carr is now in a new team, and I hope for nothing but success for Derek Carr. But I am going to be completely honest in terms of when I do say this. Defensively is good. They're solid there. Offense, Chris Olave is a good receiver that's going to be nice and solid. I don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas. The offensive line is solid, but I think they could be better. Alvin Kamara, I have no idea what's going on with Alvin Kamara, if he's going to be getting suspended or not during the season. Like, they have a lot of middle-aged players on this team that are older. Like, Cameron Jordan is older now, so you're losing that kind of aspect and that kind of fire underneath their butt sort of deal on defense for this team. Like, they're not a bad team at all. Like, they're still a talented team. They're still a well-coached team that's going to win you 9 games at best. Like, they can still be like a competitor. They can still get you to like the playoffs maybe. They can still compete each and every week. But I think since Sean Payton left this team, the team has not really been able to find like an identity. Like when Drew Brees was in it, obviously it was pass heavy under Drew Brees. Once he retired, they just kind of struggled to figure out where their identity is going to be. So they've been going with quarterback after quarterback and Jameis Winston. Then you go to Taysom Hill. Then you're going to Trevor Siemian. And then you go to Andy Dalton. Back to Jameis Winston. And now you're on to Derek Carr. And you lose Andy Dalton in the process too. Now you still have Jameis Winston in there. So, like, the team is still good. Like, I still think they can be competitive, but they are older. So that does hurt quite a bit. But I think they're just going to be slightly under. Like, I think they'll win 9 games at best, but I don't think they're going to really. I don't think they're going to tie with really anybody. I think they're going to win or lose. But I think 9, just to be on the safe side, is a pretty safe bet, and I think that could be just enough for the Saints to be able to win the division and make the playoffs. Next, I have the New York Giants. Their over-under is 8.5 games that they could win. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm going to go with the over, but just ever so slightly. Like, I think they're going to be similar to where they are next year. Maybe they could be even better. They could win you more games, like a 10, 11, maybe 12 games next year. 12 might be a little bit too high, so I'm going to say like 10 or 11 games next year they could win. I think the Giants have a good thing going for them. They've done a nice job so far in the offseason in terms of picking up some more help for Daniel Jones. Obviously, getting Darren Waller was one of their best deals that they've been able to work on. So that's going to help in the passing game quite a bit too. And that's also going to help in the offensive line part of it too, in getting protection from Jones. You also picked up Paris Campbell. Obviously, it's not really so much as Jacoby Myers. It's not anyone else I would be wanting. But, he works well enough. He's going to work in the slot part really well. I think he'll have a good connection with Jones. I think he's also going to be having some good, working alongside with like Wan'Dale Robinson, who had some nice flashes last year. Darius Slayton is nice route runner, but not really anyone that I would throw the ball deep down the field to. And then, of course, obviously no more Kenny Galladay. That was the worst deal I've ever seen from the Giants ever get with him before. And offensive line is getting better. Saquon should be healthy enough and get ready for next season. He had a nice season last year, so he'll be getting ready to get back on track for next season. Like, I think they're doing some nice things. I think now what they really need to just focus on is getting some secondary players on the defensive side of the ball. And if they can get like those secondary players in there, that's going to make you some good plays. Obviously, the Giants like to blitz a lot, but I think if you also get them the opportunity to have some man coverage in there too and get some good corners that can match up well with some of these tough receivers that they're going to probably be facing this year, they could be a solid team. Like, I think coaching is getting around there. I think coaching and management is definitely getting a lot better. We're due for better days for the Giants. I think they're up for better days. I think they can definitely improve under Daniel Jones's fifth year under center and with Brian Dable going into year two. So I like where the Giants are heading. I think the over 8.5 wins is definitely something I can see them possibly accomplishing going into next season. And next we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Their over under is 10.5 wins next year. That's what Vegas thinks they're going to win. I am going to go with the over. I think the Eagles pretty much, besides Miles Sanders, which really isn't a huge loss for them. They've lost a couple of pieces to their Super Bowl team from last year. Um, their Super Bowl runner-up team, but they're still a very solid team. Obviously, you lose your offensive play caller to the Colts. That's going to hurt you quite a bit, so that's going to be tough to really adjust and see, like, where is this offense going to be leading going into next year. But I think the Eagles are still going to be fine. I think they're still going to be going neck and neck with the Cowboys. I think they'll be neck and neck with the Giants too next year and the Commanders. Like, I think they're still going to be up there. They're still going to be competing for a NFC East title. I think they could be a contender yet again. I mean, Jalen Hurts had a nice year three status from last year. A lot of that also helped too in terms of getting A.J. Brown in the trade with Tennessee, which really proved to have been an excellent deal for the Eagles side. I think that was awesome for them. They also still have Devonta Smith, which was nice too. They also have Dallas Goedert. They have probably the best offensive line in football. So, and the defensive side, they lost C.J. Gardner, which definitely is going to hurt them too, defensively. But I still think this team is going to get into shootouts every single week. Well, not every single week, but the teams that they do end up playing going into next year. I think they play the Bills next year, and the Dolphins. I believe they also play too. So they'll play the AFC East. Obviously, they'll play their own division and then other teams that they're playing as well. Don't know exactly what their schedule is yet because it didn't come out. But I think the Eagles are still a competitor. I think they're still going to be pretty darn good going into next year. But now they just need to work on being consistent. Like last year, we knew offensively they could score easily like 40 to 50 points on you each and every week if they wanted to. But I think consistency is the biggest factor for this team. And I think a little bit of that they lacked in last year. So if they can stay consistent and just continue to grow as a team and see like where they are, they know where they were last year and how far they've come from, since Jalen Hurts was drafted to now. I think there's a lot of tools that they can definitely work with, and they can try and experiment to see like where this team is and how far they can really go with it. So don't be surprised next year if the Eagles do get back to the Super Bowl next year, because the NFC is very, very weak, and besides their own division, and then a couple teams, maybe like one or two teams outside of their own division in the NFC can compete with them. I still think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender next year. So don't be surprised if that does happen. Next, we got the San Francisco 49ers. So this one's a little bit interesting for me. Okay. And I'll explain why. Their over-under is 11.5. Most oftentimes people would say, would probably pick over because of Kyle Shanahan, because of every single talent that they have on both sides of the ball, which is very well true, obviously. I mean, obviously, you take a look at what they have on both sides. It's nothing but pure dominance. But their only thing that they're really lacking in is quarterback. After trading away Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders, that does hurt quite a bit. And we don't really know the status of Brock Purdy. Highly doubt he's going to be starting in week 1. We don't know where Trey Lance is. There's some rumors going on that Trey Lance might get traded. Now you picked up Sam Darnold to be in there too, who's possibly going to be starting, early in the season. I think the under is not crazy to think about. Like, and that's not a knock on the 49ers at all. Like, I would love for them to go over. I would love to see them win another Super Bowl. I would love for Kyle Shanahan to get what he needs. But the quarterback is the biggest piece that is missing from this team. If they could get like a Lamar Jackson or an Aaron Rodgers, somebody with just nice winning culture inside of them, this team could easily be a Super Bowl contender and easily a Super Bowl winner. But you have Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold has had some nice, games here and there, but he's also proven that there's not much that, he can do. And so that hurts quite a bit for the 49ers. That puts them and digs them in a bigger hole than what they really need to. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo was consistent. Not the most reliable, but when he was in there, he was consistent. None of these quarterbacks, well, Brock Purdy was consistent. Trey Lance, we've only seen him play like 3 games total, maybe in the last 2 seasons. We have no idea what we're getting out of him. We've seen what Sam Darnold is like. He's a turnover machine. Like, there's a lot of things about this Niners team that, just kind of makes me a little bit aggravated because this team has the Super Bowl winning culture, but the quarterback position they just cannot get right. So I'm taking the under for this one. I think they can, you know, and I'll be the first one to say if they win more than 11 and a half games, I will be the first ones in here and say, okay, I was wrong. I'm sorry. But with Sam Darnold starting your season off, I don't know if this is a team. I don't know if Sam Darnold can be carried enough by the defense. I think he just is a turnover machine too much that I don't know where he's going to be. Like, I don't know how he can gel well with Kyle Shanahan's offense. Like, I just don't know how well he can. So I'm doing the safe thing. I really think they're going to be under. I think there's one team that's going to be above them in their division in the NFC West, maybe by like a game or two. But they need to get the quarterback right. If they want to win a Super Bowl, they need to get Lamar Jackson. That's all I got to say on that. Next, you got the Seattle Seahawks. Their over-under is 8.5. The Seahawks are still a nice team. They're going to have a nice early first-round pick. I believe they're the 5th overall pick this draft season. I'm going with the over. I like the Seahawks now. Like, how do I even word this? I always liked the way that Pete Carroll has always brought ambition and encouragement to this team. Even with Russell Wilson being out of there, he still is wanting his team. He still wants to think that his team is the best in the NFC and the whole NFL league, of course. Geno Smith has proven that he can be a starter in this league. He's also proven to many people that he is the right guy. He's also proven that he can play at a high level with good talent surrounding him. So I think they're on the right track. I think Pete Carroll is doing the right things to help him be successful. I think he's doing the right thing in terms of helping him be where he needs to be. They have great receivers, great running back, nice offensive line. I think really if I'm Seattle, I would just bulk up on defense. I think that's really what you need to do. Defense was atrocious last year, and it has been for the last 5-6 years, pretty much ever since their Super Bowl, their second Super Bowl appearance when they lost to the Patriots. So I think really that's what they could be really doing in the draft this season is really bulk up on the defense. And if they could do that, I think this team could go far in the NFC. Like, I think they can compete with a lot of teams in this league. Like, I genuinely really do mean that. I think they really can compete with just about any team in the league. They really can. And I think Geno Smith has proven that he can play at a high level if a coach is giving him a chance and his team is behind him. And Seattle has been behind him since he's went there. So I'm taking the over 8.5. I think they could win a nice solid 10, maybe 11 games going into next season. Next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not going to waste too much time on this. After Tom Brady retired, You have Baker Mayfield under center. Offensive line's a mess. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's good, but they're getting older. No more Leonard Fournette. There's no run game in there. You lost, I think you lost a couple defensive players too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know entirely, but I'm doing the safe thing and I'm taking the under 6.5. I think the Bucs are, Baker Mayfield will make them, competitive. Like I think they can win 5 or 6 games, maybe at best. But this team is definitely going on a downward spiral. I think Todd Bowles, nice guy as he really is, and a nice defensive coordinator that he is too. I just don't think he cuts it as a head coach. That's why it didn't work out for him with the Jets. So I'm taking the under for this one. I think the Bucs are, a mess right now. They're having an identity crisis. In other words, after Tom Brady retired, they don't know what kind of team they want to be going into next year. So I'm doing the safe thing. I'm taking the under for this one because I think they're going to win probably 5 or 6 games, and they could have a high draft pick going into next year. And then lastly, you got the Washington Commanders, and their over-under is at 7.5. The Washington Commanders, I believe, are going to be over. I think they can win a nice solid 8 or 9 wins next year. Like, I think the NFC East is finally picking up. I think the Commanders, in terms of what they have, obviously they picked up Jacoby Brissett, who's going to probably be starting. He'll be competing for a starting spot with Sam Howell. So that will be kind of interesting to see where that kind of plays out. And in terms of everything that they have, obviously this is pretty much going to be Ron Rivera's last hurrah. If Rivera does not get this team to where he wants them to be, the Commanders could potentially move off from him. And this team is loaded with like sneaky good under the radar talent. Like I think this team can compete with pretty much anybody in the league, like they did last year under Taylor Heineke, and that last game of the season with Sam Howell playing under center. Like this team has shown a lot of good signs that they're here to stay and they can be good in any given situation. So I think they're in the right direction. I think a lot of it is just going to be dependent on coach. Obviously, Ron Rivera is going to be on the hot seat next season. Then you've got, the quarterback situation there with Brissett or Howell. Like you want to see where obviously Brissett is going to be fine. I think he'll be fine under center when he plays for the Commanders. But we also need to see too if when you draft Howell in the draft, is he going to be the guy that's going to be, is he going to be the guy that's going to be stepping up once Brissett is moved on to another team, or if they're ready to sit Brissett and Howell is in there, they want to give him an NFL start. Like, is he going to be ready for it? And I think Sam Howell with, if he does play at all this season, he's going to be loaded with some nice talent. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, and then running backs of Brian Robinson. That's pretty nice too. That I think will have a nice, better season next year. Antonio Gibson will still be there too. A nice offensive line too that's revamped and it's going to probably get better in the offseason. Like I think this team can be fairly competitive. Like I really do think they're a sneaky good flying under the radar team. It's just going to be dependent on the coaching and play calling for them, which is really going to be their biggest downfall. So we'll see where they are going into next year. And that concludes it all for the NFC win over under predictions for the 2023 season. Just to kind of close out this video, if you have not done so already, please be sure to drop a like on this video. Leave some comments down below if you want to. Obviously I'm always up to new content. I'm always up for new ideas in terms of what you want me to do to help your team. Not your team, but how to really address your needs and be able to talk about like things that you want me to talk about in terms of like the NFL. Like I'm here for you guys. I do this for fun, obviously. I enjoy doing it. I love talking to you guys. But if you guys want more, if you guys want to talk more, if you want me to cover more, you just got to tell me. So if you like and comment on this video or any other videos that I posted in the past, it's going to help me come a long way. And also, too, if you also tell your friends and family, anybody that's a football fanatic, hit that subscribe button down below. I mean, I tell you guys this each and every week, and I'm going to tell you again. Subscribing is definitely going to help you, not only me, but it's going to help the channel grow. And it's also going to really showcase as far as like Obviously you have a Colin Coward, you have a Stephen A. Smith, you have Max Kellerman, you have like all these different media people that are going to give you the news as is. I give you the opinion piece of it. Obviously, I hear sources from what I hear, but I'm also going to give you the opinion. So, and that's what people want to hear. They want to hear nice, unbiased opinions. So, and I'm the guy to go to. So, like, comment, subscribe to JP Football Fanatics. You're not just helping me, you're not just helping yourselves, but you're helping the football community and fanatics as a whole. So, with all that being said, everybody, I appreciate everybody that tuned in this afternoon. I know it may not be ideal for everybody to tune in the afternoon. It's, it's a holiday weekend. Go enjoy yourselves. We'll be live tomorrow during the early morning, afternoon time frame. I'll post it. Keep an eye out on my Facebook page in terms of when I do go live for that one, for the AFC win predictions for tomorrow, for the over and under for that. And you guys will know where we're standing on that. But thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. Really does mean a lot. This is JP Football Fanatics saying